Welcome to Japan CPO Association's first online event called Product Leaders 2021. Can you introduce yourself and your role at Qualtrics?
Sure. Thanks for having me. My name is Jay Choi. I'm the Chief Product Officer here at Qualtrics, and I've been here for almost 6 years now.
Qualtrics is famous now for the experience management category. So can you tell us about sort of how Qualtrics went from a single product to this brand new category? And how did you know when you needed to make that shift?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'll rewind it back to the moment I knew I was going to join Qualtrics. I'd finished interviewing with Sequoia and just the broad group, and I was sitting down with the founder, Ryan Smith, and I asked him, "Hey, what's the end game here? Like, what is this company going to grow up and become?" And at the time, we were known as kind of like a research company, maybe market research, survey software. And he said, "Look, either we're going to become the next mission critical piece of software like Salesforce, or we're all going to become broken homeless," right? And I just love that ambition, right? And it was completely unclear how we'd go from like small $10,000 deals to multi-million-dollar deals, talking to the C-suite. And it was a bit of a gamble, but I loved where we wanted to go, and we weren't going to stop until we achieved that. And so one of the things that I love about Ryan, like Qualtrics started in 2002, it was a single product market research provider for universities. And we have ultimately evolved into a multi-product company serving organizations clear into the enterprise. And one of the great quotes that Ryan, our founder, said is, "Look, one of the hardest things to do is to tear down something you've built and make it better, especially when it's been successful." And that's what we did at Qualtrics. We had this business that was incredibly successful. Number one research software in the world. We tore it down and we said, look, we need to create a new category called experience management. And that's what it was required to go from this research software to a mission critical piece of software. And we knew it was the right time to do that because as we saw how people used our core software, it was all for these similar experience improvement and customer experience measurement and employee experience measurement type of activities. And we said, look, we can take a bigger role in helping organizations, not just measure it, but measure it, understand it, and improve it. And so that's kind of the shift that we made. And we said, look, we're going to go set out and create a completely new category to help organizations manage their 4 core experiences, right? Their customer experience, their employee experience, their product experience, and their brand experience. And this is an exciting category that we look forward to build.
Great. So how does a customer use your platform today?
Yeah, it's a great question. We like to describe something we call experience gaps, right? Where most companies believe that they're delivering a fantastic experience to their customers, right? So if you ask CEOs, there's a great study on this. 90% of C-suite executives believe they're delivering a superior customer experience relative to their competitors. But when you ask their customers, only 53% agree, right? And we call that gap, we call that the experience gap. And then we help organizations identify that gap and then design and improve new experiences. Think about like a Ford that we work with. They are leveraging our product line to help identify where the employee experience gaps exist within their organization and how they can help close it. Similar things on brand and customer. So that's generally how customers use our platform, is they use it to manage all 4 of their experiences on a single platform.
Great. So you have all these different personas, and how do you approach product design for those different personas and those different roles?
Well, you nailed it right there. Is we spend a lot of time thinking about the core user, right? Who are the people that are going to be buying the software and implementing, and what are they going to be trying to accomplish? And one of the changes that we made in our company was we were, more functionally oriented for a while, right? A product management function, a product marketing function, services function. We reorganized entire teams around our core product offerings, customer experience, employee experience, product experience, brand experience, right when we were doing this category creation activity, because it was really important for us to get dialed into the core buyer. So some folks were very dedicated to the HR buyer. Another set of folks were actually dedicated to product buyers, like me and you. Others were dedicated to the CMO, and others were dedicated to heads of customer experience. And the reason that was so important was that it started to tune our intimacy. What are the key metrics they care about? How are they measured? What does success look like for them? And we would tune the product line, the value proposition, the core user interfaces, and then the core features and the feature roadmaps to tune to what that buyer is trying to drive as an outcome. And I think that's a pretty distinctly different orientation from many platform companies, where it's just like, look, here's a platform, you can do anything you want on it, to look, we're going to make purpose-built solutions for core buyers. And that was an important strategic shift that we made along our journey of experience management.
And how did you, so you mentioned you reorged how your teams were organized. Can you go into a little bit more detail about that?
Yeah, we reorged the entire company, actually. So when we went into experience management, we went all in. It wasn't like a marketing activity. It's like, hey, we're going to call it this. We reconstituted multiple teams. So we chopped up our services team and put them as part of these business units. We chopped up a product management team. We chopped up a product marketing team. We created a sales team around it. So in essence, we made 4 fully formed businesses underneath our company. It was a massive shift. It was highly risky, actually. But it goes back to that quote, right? Tearing down what worked before in order to create something different. And so maybe a more specific example I can give you is we used to organize by feature capabilities, which is common for most companies, right? We had dashboarding technology, we had ticketing technology, we had analytics technology, we had user management technology. And we said, no, we're going to take those and we're going to orient them towards an employee engagement product, a customer experience product, a product experience product. And then we had to figure out, okay, well, there's some common elements to this. What are we going to do about those? And so then we created a platform team. And then we created a UX team to create a common Qualtrics design system across all those platforms. It was really, really difficult at the time, but that's when our business took off. We accelerated like crazy. And just recently, actually this past year and a half, we actually reunified these groups together and went back to a functional model, because now we're trying to win the entire, XM category, not just customer experience, employee experience, PX and BX. We want to win the whole thing. So it's neat to see our business start to adjust to where we are in the maturity cycle and where we are in the category maturity cycle. So we had a platform team. We chunked it down into what we called experience teams or business units. And now we're going back to a functional model so that we can serve our customers better. Really admire how the company just kind of adapts to that. So hopefully that answered your question.
Can you tell us more about the outside-in approach and how that works and why that's important?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, an interesting lead up to this is our core values as a company. It's transparency, all in, customer obsessed, one team, and scrappy, right? And you put all those together and it spells the word tacos. So there's that middle one, customer obsessed. That's actually is core to our DNA, right? And if you think about it, we're a feedback company, right? An enterprise feedback company. And so we spent a ton of time figuring out how we learn and listen to companies. So one of the principles of experience management is helping organizations run their business from the outside in. And what we found is that organizations who are the most tuned in with their customers and have reliable systems and processes and a culture for listening actually end up winning in the marketplace. And so we help companies make decisions based on what their customers, their employees, or any other stakeholders are saying about their products, services, or brands. Like as an example, retailers, we help them understand what their customers are saying to them in the store or on social media or over customer support, and even indirectly how they feel just generally about the brand. We help employees voice their opinion to their company. How safe do they feel about the latest COVID safety measures? How many times do they want to go back into the office in the new future of work? These are all things that help organizations design from the outside in. And I think it's an important principle in general for anyone who's involved with keeping product in mind. And I think one of the challenges, myself I face, or anyone who's leading out in product, is how do you get those signals in a reliable manner? And then how do you construct those signals in a way that helps you prioritize what the opportunities are in the marketplace, and then circle back?
I read the Harvard Business Review article, and it talked about how the application needed to be complex enough so that like a professor could use it, but at the same time could actually do all the research, but at the same time like an intern, it needed to be simple enough so that an intern could use it. So in terms of building a product like that, and then evolving that product, can you explain some of your thinking behind it?
Yeah, it's a really great question. There's some history behind this that kind of makes it even more interesting. So Ryan's father was a professor in market research and literally wrote the book on market research and all the market research methods, and it's pretty complex. And the way it originated was like, look, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way to do this, via technology. And the method back then was pencil and paper. And there's like, oh man, how are we going to take this and then leverage technology? And so one of the things that they really had to do was obfuscate the complexity and then reveal it as part of a process. That's the way they could get not only customers using it the right way, but they could get their sales reps to understand, right? Their sales reps can't be professional market researchers selling to professional market researchers. So they spent time breaking it down to the steps, right? Step 1, build your questions. Step 2, distribute it. Step 3, analyze the software. Step 4, make your reports. And step 5, download it. And they built the software that way, where it's like, look, tab number 1, this is what you do to complete it. Tab number 2, tab number 3, tab number 4, tab number 5. And what seems obvious today wasn't actually obvious back then, right? It talked about all these advanced research methods, how you put them together, and it wasn't like a standardized method. But that's how we built the software. And the unique thing that happened during that time was all of a sudden our software reps started getting so used to this motion. Step 1, step 2, step 3, they became market research experts on accident, right? Because they would help, they were, the same sales rep was also customer support, was also their customer success rep, was also, their level of, their research methodologist at some point. But because they had this foundation, they were able to debug, like, oh, it looks like something's going wrong with your distribution. Let's kind of understand what's going on with your response rates. And it was a really elegant way of taking all the complexity of market research and breaking it down into steps and a flow that someone could get their head around. And I think that's a lot of kind of how we think about breaking down complexity is what's the taxonomy? What's the taxonomy in which things can break down into? And can we make those into logical chunks where people can just take bite-sized pieces one at a time? And we found a lot of success in that. Like experience management doesn't exist. We created that category, but we had to create something that people could get their heads around. And so we started to create this taxonomy, right? Listen and remember, right? How do you listen to the feedback from your people? And then where do you store it? Analyze and understand, right? You take all that signals that you brought in, turn it into analytics, and then simplify it with understanding, and then take action and drive a culture of action. And by turning it into these like themes and this taxonomy, we're able to take something that's pretty complex across a large organization and simplify it into something that people can understand.
So you have customers in all these different industries. So how do you make any changes to the product itself, or is it all in terms of marketing and product marketing and sort of customer success, like the teams that help those industries use your product successfully?
There are some industries that you have to make a product bet on, right? Highly regulated industries, government, academia. Are we going to go in this industry? And then we move forward. There are another class of industries that we've made this platform, and this is an architectural decision that we made that has really played out well for us, is we spend a ton of time making a highly configurable platform. Our competitors actually chose to make a very rigid platform. But there's advantages to that, right? It's simpler. The way we've designed our employee engagement software, you can use any question you want. You can design your own study. You can design it in any format, language that you want. Significantly more engineering work, and it takes a lot more maintenance work. But guess what? It helps us win the enterprise, because the enterprise doesn't want to take just a random off-the-shelf idea. They wanted to customize it specifically for their business. And the reason I'm giving you all this background is there are certain industries that we cater to via marketing and config. And we test out if there's real demand there. And so you can probably create like 10 to 12 POCs and marketing decks for those. And then where there is real traction, that's where we make our product investments. So healthcare is an example. Financial services is another example. So oftentimes we will leverage the product marketing and maybe the front end face work just to test out the demand signal.
You have probably the best tool to do the research, and then at the same time you've built it as a platform, a configured platform, so you can adjust quickly and respond to that market need. So what advice do you have for product leaders as they're thinking about the next phase of their product vision or roadmap?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ken. As I think about my role and how I partner with engineering, a lot of times we get to decide in our product roles what and why gets built, and engineering partners with us on how. And as I think about my product strategy and my vision, I think about three things at all times. One, do we have a compelling customer value? Something that's really valuable. Are we solving a problem in the market? For everything we build, is it a pain point we're addressing? The second is, do we have a differentiated product out in the marketplace? And this is probably where I think a lot of product leaders fall short, is they don't put themselves in the shoes of the sales organization or a prospect who's looking to buy. It's really sometimes very nuanced or difficult to understand what's different about a product line. And the deeper, as a product leader thinks about a differentiated solution, it makes it easier downstream. It makes it easier to sell. It makes it easier as a consumer to buy and to understand why you're buying. And then the third one is having a really compelling or a strong financial rationale or a return on investment. And with those three things, the customer value, differentiated solution, and a strong ROI narrative, I typically feel really good about the products we release at that point in time. And as it flows through the entire system, sales understands what's different about it, and they know how to pitch the value to a customer. Or if you're a direct-to-consumer business, we make it easier to articulate what the value is. And so in many cases, it's just a practice that we do that we've borrowed from other folks. We write our press releases ahead of time. We write, a quarter ahead. We said, what kind of stories do we want to be able to plant in the marketplace? And the fun thing about that is it allows us to really dial in how we want to tell the story. The entire engine is working way beforehand, and we start to publish the stories that we want to be true. What partner do we want having a strategic partnership on this? And so in many cases, we've already written the press release, and every month we review it. Are we on track to deliver this? Are we on track to deliver this? Are we on track to deliver this? And it's just a neat way for us to stay galvanized across not just the product management function, but across our sales, our marketing, and different functions to bring to life what we want to see come. And ever since we started that practice, we have done a better job of telling our story out in the marketplace and getting customer evidence on day one. And so I think it's a powerful little trick that we've used across our business.
Great. And in terms of how that process works, do you have sort of like a pilot process where you work with a particular set of customers to sort of build and get that feedback?
Yeah. We call that our preview program, where it's a set of customers who have raised their hand and said, hey, we would love to be part of the creation process, even if it's janky or not fully finished, because they're betting their platform on us, right? These folks are betting their future on us, and they want to be involved with every step of the way. And so an example of this is an automated insights product that we created, where we were trying to automatically generate insights for HR leaders, right? Okay, your female engineers in Europe have lower engagement than their male counterparts in North America. And our AI product was constantly searching for it. Well, it turns out we created our first version of it, and we would have like 50 insights. And the team was like, hey, these are great, but it's just overwhelming. I'd actually rather have the top 3 that will move my needle the most than have 58 of them, even though we could have created it. We could have created 100, hundreds of AI generated insights. And they said, I'd rather have a prioritized list of the top 5 to 7. And that was an insight for us. And I was like, hey, that's great for us to understand. And so we spent more time building out the top 5 to 7 and providing rich insight for that group than we did the volume of insights. And so that was a key learning for us. And through that process, we got a quote, we released it out into the marketplace. And so it's just been a helpful process for us.
That's an amazing story. Thank you, Jay. Thank you very much for spending your time with the Japan CPO Association, and best of luck with your business. And thank you again.
All right. No problem, Ken. Hopefully that was helpful for you.